right, welcome back. Now, I know we didn't start this week one, but better late than never, as they say. That's Walter from WalterFootball.com. I'm Eytan from OddShopper.com. We are back, not only together, Walt, to do this video again this year. And again, we're kind of not even fully halfway in the season, so we at least have a good part here. But you and I are also sharing a ticket this year. As last year was all about your ticket and your leans and everywhere you were going with the Supergate, the Westgate contest started me. Now we're back, my friend. You and I splitting a ticket.
Yeah, better late than never. I think we started at this point last year too. So
okay,
maybe next year we'll start week one. But last year we had some good winners. And I think hopefully we have some good winners in the second half because we have some catching up to do. We've done okay so far in the Super Contest, but we have some catching up to do, and there are mini contests along the way too. So there's money to win there.
Right. Nice. And that's what we're always looking for. Small victories, by all means, and to build up to large ones. WalterFootball.com, of course, is the site. We'll show you and peruse through it, as we mentioned. And Walt, you can just touch on this as you guys are doing a bunch of stuff. I already see a mock draft, 2024 mock draft from Charlie Campbell. You guys own the draft, but you're doing a bunch of other things on top of that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a 2025 mock draft tomorrow too, so you can look out for that if you like the draft. But yeah, we have picks against the spread for both NFL and college football and basketball. Eventually, once the NFL kind of dies down, we're gonna have grades for every trade on the trade deadline, so you can look out for that on Halloween before going trick or treating or whatever you're gonna do. We have tons of other content, power rankings. We have overrated, underrated lists. We grade every signing. We do everything on the site, and it's all free. So you can check that out at walterfootball.com.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, let's go through it. We're going to rip through a card. We're going to build a 5-play card here. You and I are kind of in agreement maybe with one or two games. There are a couple of games that we're on opposite ends on, by all means. So I don't know if it's just easier to kind of go through and say, all right, let's stop if we have any interest. And we're going to go on DK. Again, Walt has links below. You can sign up on multiple books, take advantage of new offers, what have you. We're just showing you this as far as the purpose of a visual, but we are beholden to the lines from the contest, which in some cases, as you know, Walter, and those of you out there, if you hit the thumbs up, subscribe here and on walterfootball.com, then you know that you're locked in to a couple of these lines here. 7 is highly intriguing, but that has to be our line for the contest, right? 6.5, 6, as this thing was building towards that. I would stay away. Do you have any interest in all in Washington at 7, assuming we could get that?
Not really. Their Eagles have the Cowboys coming up, so if they didn't have a look ahead, I think I'd take the Eagles because I think they went to overtime last time against Washington, so that could be on the radar. But yeah, I mean this line's 6.5. So if you like Washington in the Super Contest, it's pretty rough. So I'll pass on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too is, looking at what we get is a lot different than what we may have right now, currently, when we're doing this on Friday afternoon, which I like because there's the adjustment that's from it, by all means. All right, so no interest there. This is a big line. It's been a big line. If anything, there would be some interest from the Patriots. It was a huge win. Buffalo win 300 for Belichick. I'm not ready to really say that team has turned any type of corner. This was another game that I stayed away from.
Yeah, I have no interest in this one. We can just move on. I'm so sick. I'm so sick of the Patriots. I've lost so much money on them. I've had a decent year otherwise, but the Patriots have absolutely killed me with that, especially with that safety that they took against the Raiders. I can't talk about them anymore. I'm just kind of so tilted.
You're fine, brother. I don't think anybody's going to fight back or push back on that by any means. You're right. We'll move on. Now it gets a little interesting, right? Oh, no, we have this Jags steal. I think, look, 2.5 is just a number that if you're going to take for Pittsburgh, you think they're going to win this game outright, which I'm open. I'm open to that conversation that Pittsburgh wins this game outright at home. I just didn't rush to bet it. So this was back end. I might bring it up on our weekly call as far as hey, fellas, what do you think? But I was not racing to the window to bet this.
Yeah, I'm actually
I
think I'll take the Jaguars if anything. They're in consideration for my card. I think people are like, okay, the Steelers are going to find some way to win, because they always do, right? Against the Browns, they were outgained, they found a way to win. Same thing against the Ravens, and then the Rams last week. This team just has like this crazy voodoo about them where they find a way to win. But I don't know how sustainable that is. I think the Jaguars are kind of out of their weight class. I think they should be able to win this pretty easily. Like as long as nothing crazy happens. They've had more rest. Steelers are coming back from the West Coast, so there's some travel issue there. And yeah, I just think Jacksonville's a lot better. And if you look at like teams that were outgained in total yards and yards per play, or vice versa, and they had a misleading result. Like for example, like the Rams last week had more yards and yards per play than the Steelers, and the Steelers won. If you go the opposite way, if you've done that the past 2 years, you'd be 66-42 against the spread. Just because the lines don't adjust properly. I think Jacksonville should be -3 or higher. So I think we get some value with Jacksonville here. So they might be on my card.
All right, let's put them there. Look, I agree with that mentality. It was why I went with Tampa Bay on Monday night for us, or Thursday night, sorry, the days and all, because of Buffalo losing kind of in the box, if you will, with games in which they were outgained and yet still winning, and things aren't adjusting for that. So I recognize that strategy. By all means, we'll build on this. We'll keep building on this and see if we can fit Jacksonville as maybe a fourth or fifth option. I'm not betting Pittsburgh. I'm not betting Pittsburgh to win. So I'm not pushing back on that by any means. It was just more of a stay. Now, this is interesting because it's moved back on Sunday night, last Sunday night, Walt. I jumped on the Cowboys at -6. You were one of the people, maybe the only people, right, who has mentioned to me as far as, the dangers of laying 6.5, knowing that 6 and 7 are key in that intermediary area. It felt for me right away that people were going to rush to bet Dallas, that this line was going to move from 6 to 6.5, possibly up to 7. So this was a big look ahead bet for me, Dallas -6, to get ahead of that number more than anything else. Now I find out that you happen to be on the opposite side.
Yeah, I like the Rams a lot, and this is the other end of that misleading Steelers-Rams game where the Rams outgained the Steelers in yards per play. But it's a lot more than that. Like first of all, Dallas, I think is going to be looking ahead to the Eagles. It's a big game. It's basically it might be for the division. And I don't know how the Rams are going to be on the radar, considering the Rams just lost to the Steelers. Also, like if you look at Matthew Stafford, how he's played this year, he's 3-4. He's 3-0 against teams that are outside of the top 10 in pressure rate, and he's 0-4 against teams in the top 10 in pressure rate. It's kind of like pretty easy to diagnose how he's going to play. And you might think like, oh man, he's going to get killed by Dallas here because they have Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and whatnot. But Dallas, for whatever reason, they're 18th in pressure rate this year. Parsons is just having like an average year. DeMarcus Lawrence just looks done. Like he's having a bad year. He has 2 sacks on the season. Dallas is just not getting pressure on the quarterback. Also, Dallas is, like really sucks at defending the middle of the field, and the Rams love attacking the middle of the field. So I just think this is a good matchup for the Rams. I think this line's too high though, as well. Like I think that these teams are pretty even. Like if you look at EPA, adjusted EPA, Dallas I think is 8th, and the Rams are 11th. So I think this line should be like 3.5. So 6 is way too high. I love the Rams this week.
The biggest thing for me is in carrying over week to week. And look, I mean, as far as the look ahead element of it to Philadelphia, I get that. The Rams are still a popular team. It's not like Pittsburgh or lower, like Carolina, right? If you've got Carolina coming to town, I think, okay, it's a lot easier to sell me. But the Rams still have some talent, and you're well aware of their offense that they're boasting with now 2 wide receivers. The biggest thing for me was what Dallas just did with the Chargers and how easy it's been, granted in higher scoring games, for the Chargers offense to get by on a lot of defenses. And you saw Dallas kind of put that clamp down. Assuming for me this was a lower scoring game, I just thought that favored the Cowboys. Ultimately, I'm with you that it's probably going to be like 6. I think I can still sneak in, but I understand how you look at that, especially when you look at Rams trends that coming off a straight up against the spread loss. Now looking at what they have here, I understand what you're saying. I bet the opposite. So just publicly, as far as on our Discord, I'm on the opposite end on that. But the contest, it's a little different here. We're getting 6.5 in the contest, not 6. And I do recognize that that's a little bit of a difference. And it's one where, all right, my bet is one end and I can separate the two for the card. So let's keep that on there at the very least. I'm not going to push back and use like whatever they call it, like a veto.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I have a veto, but I wouldn't use that on the Rams. I think it might come on the next one, though. I'm on Minnesota. I bet Minnesota and took Minnesota, just to look at my sheet here, Walt. Earlier in the week, I believe that I was getting a point. So on 10/25 this week, I took Minnesota +1. It has since moved through 0. We here on the contest get this sucker at, I'm sorry, I just had it here. And now I lost it.
It's a pick 'em in the contest.
It's a pick 'em. Okay. So look, +1, pick 'em, -1.5. We're essentially picking a winner here. But it is interesting that I did get it at 1 and it has moved through 0.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides here. I like the Packers. It's hard to bet them. I mean, I think that if I remember correctly in our text, you were like, I'm done with this team or something like that.
Just like you are with who was it?
The Patriots, right?
Patriots, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Sorry.
I don't blame you at all because they've had 2 bad losses here with the Raiders and the Broncos both, but they're both on the road. And if you think about it, like they were in position to win both games with final drives. Like they were driving in the Raiders game that Love threw that interception downfield. And then he did that again against the Broncos, where like he only needed like 20 or so yards to get into field goal range. He had 2 downs to get there. So pretty sloppy play on his part, but they were both on the road and now they're coming home. So I think that's going to be a little bit different here. And they're home dogs. Which is kind of crazy. A few weeks ago, they would have been favored against Minnesota for sure. And I feel like everyone wants to bet the Vikings because they beat the Niners on Monday Night Football, and that was impressive. But if you look at how teams have done coming off big upsets on Monday Night Football, like they generally play poorly the next week. I think it's like 16-26 against the spread. Like underdogs of 6 or more coming off a straight up win on Monday Night Football. It's just hard with the short week. So I think the Packers are in a good buy low spot. Like if you think about it, like they were like I said, they were driving to win those 2 games, and if they had won, they'd be 4-2 instead of 2-4, and this line would be closer to 3. So I just think it's a good buy low spot for the Packers. I'm not like crazy about it. I don't know if it's going to make my card. It's like in the consideration pile. So considering that you're on the Vikings, we can just leave this off the card, I think.
Yeah, 4-1 ATS last 5 for the Vikings after Monday night hosting, I should say, Monday night. Packers. Now, again, depending on how you read this, right? This opened up with the Packers as a favorite, and they're 1-6. I see ATS in the second of back-to-back games that they are chalk, that they're favorites. Now that switch, that's moved over. We're still getting at a pick. I think, this one we just leave off because I think we can find something a little bit better here. Look, we've talked about this team, and this came up on the call with the Buffalo game. This was a big topic of conversation on the Odd Shopper Discord here as well. I'm interested in the Giants, but I did not bet the Giants. So I am totally okay with either being talked into or, wait. I take that back. Foolishly, I did bet the Giants. So I'm on New York +3 as a bet. I have not put this on the card because I can't put it on the card without your blessing. But you look at Brian Daboll, 3-0 straight up in this spot as a picker dog, non-division, especially taking on teams that are less than 500. Jets have struggled coming off a bye. They're 1-10 outright. I get it that it's the Giants. It's a home game for both teams, all that. But there seems to be a little bit of life, if you will, with this Giants team that I didn't think even existed.
I think it's misleading. I think they're going to get smoked this week.
Are you on the Jets?
Yeah, I'm on the Jets, especially in the contest when they're 2.5. It's kind
that's
of hard.
Different, right?
Yeah, right. It's kind of hard to justify the Giants at +2.5. Like 3 is the most likely result of any NFL game. But regardless, I still like the Jets at -3. Andrew Thomas got ruled out. I think that's why this line rose back to 3. And Daniel Jones is going to be out again. And people might view that as a good thing because Tyrod Taylor has, he's played like pretty decently the past 2 games, but he's been playing against like a banged up Buffalo defense. And then against Washington might have the worst defense in the NFL now that Denver has improved and Chicago has improved. They can't stop anything. And and yet the Giants still only scored 14 points in that game. It felt like they should have scored more than that. And now they're going to be playing the Jets. Like, this is a different animal for Tyrod Taylor. Like, the Jets are a top 10 defense. Like, just look at how they played against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Like, to quote Robert Saleh, they've embarrassed those quarterbacks. Now they get Tyrod Taylor. Like, I think that they're just going to do a number on him. I just don't see how the Giants are going to move the ball without Andrew Thomas. And I just think that the Jets are going to win. I know that they have the post-bye stuff, but I don't know. It's Robert Saleh has only had a couple of chances. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're off. That's the thing that I can't get around is that this is look at the total. The total, like Iowa games. That you've got Air Force games that are like 36. Army. I mean, this total is probably too high for this battle here at MetLife. It just feels like neither team, and I'm with you, like the Giants are going to face their toughest test yet. Both of these guys, however, Jones and Taylor, have decent ATS and even straight up records against sub 500 teams. And I understand, like, I get it. Well, I'm not going to push back on anything you said defensively. The Jets are a strong team, really good, solid defensive team, but they're below 500. They're a bad team overall for a reason. They make mistakes on offense. They have this. The Giants too. It's probably best to stay away from this in real life. On the contest, 2.5, much different. Taking the Giants at +3 versus now laying the 2.5, much different. I'll let this linger, although I'm not happy about it by any means. This one has.
Well, before we move on, can I push it back for 1 second?
Of course, you can push back. Yes, please.
Well, the Jets are 3-3 right now, so like. Okay, they're
not sub 500, right?
What? Yeah,
I stand corrected, right?
Well, they're 3-3 says average team, but like they've had such a murderous row like of opponents. Like they had Buffalo when then Buffalo's at full strength. Then they played Dallas on a short week. And then they had the Patriots and Bill Belichick has Zach Wilson's number. Then they played the Jets. They almost beat the Jets. They went into Denver and won like pretty convincingly, and then they played the Eagles. Like those are such tough opponents. This is one of their easiest games of the year. I think that they're going to be playing better when they have softer opponents. So I think they're better than a 3-3 team.
Man, this is a tough one here. These betting bad football teams, week 8. What are we doing here? This one, look, I mean, on the surface, this is where I am interested. And again, the number always has to be right on the contest for us. This is at 3. It's significantly different than 3.5. If this were at 3.5, I would strongly suggest we do take Carolina. The switch of play calling. Houston, I think, has been outplaying, I think, their performance, if you will, ultimately. And this is a game that I would definitely be interested at 3.5. I'm still interested in Carolina at 3. But again, knowing where this is at 3.5, that would be the number I would jump on. We don't have that on the contest. Instead, it's at 3.
Yeah. If it was 3.5, I would definitely consider Carolina. You're talking about betting bad teams. I mean, either way, we're betting a bad team. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I would take Houston, if anything, at 3. At 3.5, it's hard pass for me, but yeah.
All right. Look, I understand that. All right. This game, I cannot believe it. I have no idea. It opened at 42.5. I thought, okay, I mean, give me backup QB on one side. You've got the Saints defense on the other side. Give me under 42.5. This thing will slide to 41.5, maybe even through that key number by kick. And here I am clearly on the wrong side of market movement. What the hell do I know? I don't know if that changes how you look at this now with the benefit of hindsight, at least from a total standpoint. This is at a pick'em. So forget the line here. Forget the spread. I would lean. Look, I never lay money with Dennis Allen and the quarterback there, Derek Carr, especially together as favorites on the road. Technically, they're not favorites, so I could be talked into this. This is a stay away from me. I don't love Indianapolis either, although I don't have any confidence issues with Gardner Minshew. I just stayed away from this football game.
Yeah, I initially liked the Saints a little bit, but then kind of talked myself out of it. So
Good.
yeah, we could just pass it.
All right, I love Atlanta this week. I took a minus 125 when this was around earlier in the week on the money line. I understand that you can, and look, the biggest fight that I have, and by the way, this is at 2.5, clearly, so we're fine under that key number, laying 2.5. If you like it, it's going to be a lot harder for Walt, if he doesn't, to talk me into taking 2.5. So this might just be a pass by all means. But the biggest thing for me is actually what's going on inside that locker room. And as great as Mike Vrabel has been, Walt, with coming off the bye, with being a dog at home, knowing that Mike Vrabel has thrived in this position, this is the first time that the walls are crumbling around him as far as from the outside, from the organization, moving guys. The trade to our Philadelphia Eagles, what could be an impending trade now with Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill out, all of that, although the trade deadline now, all of that, this team has given up. And I think it's only a matter of time before that manifested on the field. Atlanta has life, man. I think Atlanta is in a great spot here, despite them being a tight road favorite, to take advantage of chaos inside the Titans building.
Yeah, they just have to stop turning the ball over in the red zone. Like last week, they had 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line and then 3 fumbles overall in the red zone. They could have won that game like 30-13, but they made it close for some reason. And it seems like that they do that all the time. Like for some reason, they move the ball so well between the 20s, and then they just find a way to screw up in the red zone. But Tennessee's secondary is so bad. They should be able to throw all over the Titans. Bijan Robinson is going to hopefully play this week. And it's so easy to like Atlanta's defense against Will Levis. He's an unknown. That's the only worry I have here, is that like we just don't know what to expect out of Will Levis. Like I didn't like him coming out of Kentucky, but like crazier things have happened. Like maybe he's the next great thing. But I really don't think so. So I like Atlanta. I don't love it because they kick a lot of field goals and they seem to win by 1 or 2. They're the kings of winning and not covering. So I like your idea of taking the money line. We can't do that in the contest, unfortunately, but I would take Atlanta under 3 for sure if you wanted to in the contest.
Okay. There we go. Now let's keep it moving here. Cleveland on the road, Seattle 3.5. If this game were at home, no matter what the spread, the line, I would jump all over Cleveland. Absolutely love what they're able to do. The splits on defense at home, I don't want to touch this. And again, the contest number, just to clarify here, this is at 3.5 as well. So even the hook here does not excite me with Cleveland.
So I always say that if you bet the 3.5, you need a really good reason, because games always land on 3. But I think we have a couple of good reasons here to take Seattle. First of all, the Browns are going to have either an injured quarterback or a backup quarterback against Seattle's defense, which has been awesome. Like they're ranked number 1 in defensive EPA. It's kind of crazy how much better they've gotten this year. Second, we saw a line move through 3. So this opened 2.5, it went to 3.5. The sportsbooks know that, middling is a possibility. So the fact that they moved to 3 kind of tells me that they're not concerned about this line landing on 3. They're either pretty confident that Seattle's going to cover and win easily, or the Browns are just going to win outright or something. So I don't have a concern here about the 3.5. Also, if Deshaun Watson's ruled out, this line's going to rise to 5.5. So suddenly this 3.5 will get a little bit of value from it. So I think Seattle is going to be on my card. Cleveland, by the way, one of those teams that won outright but lost in both yardage and yards per play. So.
Yeah, I can't trust Cleveland in this 3.5. The hook scared me a little bit. All right, look, we'll keep it moving. We'll see what's going on here. 7 is a tricky number. I understand that. Kansas, it's the number we get here too. I like Kansas City this week. I know that it's tough. It's division. They're on the road, and this is an easy conversation that somebody can talk themselves into saying, let down, look ahead, anything else as far as playing a bad Denver team. It feels like, maybe you want to make an argument for the next game as far as the quarterback having a monster week and then having a little bit of a letdown or at least regression to the mean. I'm not willing to make that argument about Patrick Mahomes quite yet. I'm interested in the Chiefs -7, but I'm happy to move on unless there's a small part of you, WalterFootball.com, who's intrigued by Denver. Dare I say unless? Hopefully not.
No way. It's Chiefs or nothing for me. The one worry I have here is that the Chiefs, after this game, they have to travel to Germany to take on the
Yeah.
Dolphins. So they could be looking ahead, and plus they just beat Denver. But I think the talent disparity between these two teams is too great, like for that to happen. Like in the past, you would say, like all week, I've heard people say, I listen to like various shows, like during the week when I walk the dogs or whatever. Like everyone I hear says, oh, the Chiefs usually don't cover as big road favorites. Well, in the past, they've had this elite defense. They're ranked 6th in defensive EPA. Like they're a top defense now, and I think that's going to change that dynamic for them. Like they've been covering big spreads this year for a change. So I'm on board with the Chiefs if you want them.
So what I love is and trends are trends until you go against them, right? Chiefs are 1-9 ATS coming off double-digit wins. Denver's 5-0 ATS last 5 games as a division home dog. Nothing about this game from a common sense standpoint says take Denver, right? Like it's Chiefs or pass. I'm with you on that. I want to keep moving just a little bit, see what more we can come up with here. Again, a reminder, walterfootball.com is the site where you can catch him across the board. You can follow us as well on social, but the biggest thing is we want you to subscribe here to the Odd Shopper channel and take advantage of everything Walter has, including Charlie Campbell. Like you should be taking advantage of Charlie Campbell. Nobody knows the NFL. Nobody on the planet knows the NFL draft quite like Mr. Campbell. All right. I think that there is some regression in the air here. 9.5 is a big number. I love Arizona. If people are still teasing, I don't know if that thing exists anymore. The biggest thing is, what do we get for the Super Contest? What do we get at Westgate here for this line? And it's 8.5. Now, granted, 7, 6, 7, 8 are the numbers. Maybe there isn't a big enough difference. People out there from 8.5 to 9.5. This is the opposite, but it's the same scenario for me. I'm either intrigued in Arizona or passing.
Yeah, 9's a dead number, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm on board with you with Arizona. I think if you're betting this and not in the contest, obviously in the contest you can't bet first half lines. Like I think I would bet Arizona first half if anything, because they seem to melt down in the second half. Like against
great call, man.
Yeah, against the Giants, they blew that 20-0 lead. Against Seattle, they were only down 4, and then they found a way to not cover. Against the Rams, they were up 9-6 at halftime. It seems like in the second half they just blow it. So that's I worry about that. Like maybe the Ravens cover at the end here, but I think this line is just way too high. Baltimore's coming off that big statement win against Detroit. I just don't see like what the motivation is for them here. Like it's a non-conference game on the road. They're big favorites. I like Arizona. And plus we might get Kyler Murray. So that's a bonus.
Let's put them there right now. Look, even with I don't like betting on injured quarterbacks unless they're like you. I apply the same thing as far as laying 3.5. The same thing for an injured quarterback. Like there has to be something really there. 4 is a tricky number. I think it puts some people off at times. They don't really know what to do with 4. We get it at 3.5. There's no big difference for me, 3.5 or 4. I've got some interest. Like this is something I'm going to bring up to you, to Tom, to Jacob on our call here. I think Cincinnati has some legs here at 3.5.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there was enough of an adjustment made from 5.5 to 3.5, and this tells me that like not moving the line through 3, like they would be worried about a middling through 3. So like, if, for example, like they moved this down to 2.5, like they would get crushed if the Niners won by 3. So that tells me that they think the Niners winning by 3 is a very likely result. And I think that's probably the most likely result in this game. So yeah, we get Cincinnati covering with the Niners winning by 3. So yeah, definitely on board with you with Cincinnati.
I don't want anything to do with this game. It's Sunday night football. A lot of people lose laying points throughout the day, and they think, all right, well, slam the favorite at home. Wacky, crazy shit happens more often than not for me to just slam the 8.5, or in the case of the Cardinals, still number 8.5. I don't know what you want to, if anything, what you want to do with this game. Common sense would tell you that Bagent 0 and the Bears don't have enough to keep up with the Chargers, despite how poor the Chargers defense has played. Overall, I don't know, man. This is a pass personally for me.
I actually love the Bears. I think
of course you do.
Yeah. I think they have a good chance to win outright. I don't like the Chargers. The Chargers are such garbage. Like what have they done this year? Their 2 wins have come against Minnesota, like which they easily could have lost, and then they beat the Raiders backup quarterback by 7 points, which like the Bears beat the Raiders backup quarterback by 18 points. So like the Bears have been kind of like not bad recently. Like they look terrible to start the year. But in recent games, like they had a big lead against Denver. They blew it. Sure, they lost by 3, but they still had a big lead against Denver. They outgained them in yards and yards per play too. Against Washington, they destroyed them in Washington. Against Minnesota, like they lost, but they held Minnesota to 12 offensive points, which was like pretty impressive. I know Justin Jefferson was out, but still, we saw what Minnesota did the following week, and then they crushed the Raiders. This defense has gotten better. I think Bajan's okay. Like I watched all of his film heading into that Raider game, and he looked okay to me. He makes quick decisions. He can scramble. And like he only really made like one mistake, I thought, in those 2 preseason games plus the game against Minnesota. I just don't see why the Chargers are favored by 8.5. I think they suck. And also, they're coming off such an emotional game against the Chiefs. Like, they put everything into that game. It was a 7-point game heading into the fourth quarter. It was their Super Bowl, basically, and they lost, and now they're big favorites. This sort of dynamic has happened a couple of times this year. Like, first of all, against the Jaguars against the Chiefs in week 2, they put everything into that game as a revenge. And then the next week, they were big favorites over Houston, and they just had a bit like the biggest letdown spot ever. They lost outright. And then Washington against the Eagles, that was their Super Bowl. They went to overtime. They lost. Then they were big favorites against Chicago, and they lost outright. I think this is a terrible spot for the Chargers. I think the Bears have a good chance to kind of win outright. And Justin Herbert's hurt. You know, he's missed Keenan Allen for some deep throws. Again, like these teams are like, if you look metrics wise, these teams are like right next to each other. So like, where's this 8.5 come from? Like I would make this line like 3 or 3.5.
All right, it's on the card, and now I'm gonna have to bet Chicago. It's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna have to take them at 8.5. I'll probably have to tease them with Washington, maybe at 7. I don't know, something crazy, and then bet them half or quarter unit at plus 340. Maybe I can find something better on Odd Chopper. All right, we have 8 games. Last one, if you like, and I do like Detroit. In fact, I did bet Detroit. Just want to make sure that I have the correct number. So what I did was I took the 2 games you don't like, New York and Minnesota, and essentially put them together to where I have the Giants at 10, Minnesota at plus 7, and I brought Detroit all the way down. I'm fine with laying 8. I don't care who starts for the Raiders. I don't think it really matters at this point what we see. The Vegas Raiders are done, and Detroit is really good. Like Dan Campbell, we talk about win-loss records, and I think that really stands out for a quarterback and a coach. Dan Campbell is 17-8-1 ATS at home, just great against the spread, 18-6 in which he's holding teams to less than 100 yards rushing. I don't know how the Raiders get to that number. I love Detroit in this game. I'm not scared by a number above 8.
No, I'm not either.
Even though we do get 8.5. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. One of my favorite things in the NFL is to bet good teams that were embarrassed. And the Detroit was embarrassed last week against Baltimore. I love Baltimore last week. I thought it was a great spot for them. But here, you know, they're coming off that humiliating loss. And like they're the one big favorite this week that's going to be focused. Like all these other teams that are favored by a ton of points, like they either have like crazy look aheads coming up, or they might be looking backward. Detroit's definitely going to be focused, and the Raiders are a horrible team. They can't do anything right. They can't block. They suddenly can't run the ball. They have the 2 good receivers, but you know Jimmy Garoppolo may not be healthy with his back issue, and then they can't rush the passer outside of Crosby. They can't stop the run. They can't cover. Detroit should win this like super easily. So yeah, I'm bored with you with Detroit here.
All right, we need to take 4 games off this card. You want to start with Jacksonville? It seemed like you were kind of the least confident of all your plays with Jacksonville.
Yeah, we could take them off.
It's a great number. It really, mathematically, it's a great number.
Yeah, I kind of like them. We could take the Rams off because you don't like them. You know, I don't want to like have that.
Yeah, but if that okay, we're fair. I mean, we're getting them at 6.5, so I do recognize that. If that's the case, it's going to be give and take. So you're going to require the Jets to stay on there. Here's the thing: of all the plays that we've given out here, the 2 that I like the most are Detroit and Atlanta. Do you have enough of an issue where you would veto either one of those? And if you do, that's fine with me. But I figure we can start there. Like, Tennessee, what have you. I listened to what you said, Shander, but I was just allowing you to hear your own words. I don't like them.
No, I'm not going to veto either of those. I like those, so we can keep those on.
See, okay, look, we have to take 3 games off this card. My 3 would be Jacksonville, Arizona, and I guess Cincinnati, as emphatic of an explanation as you just gave.
Wait, not the Jets, though? I don't think you like the Jets very much. We can take that team off.
Yeah, but you like the Jets a lot. You like both the Jets and the Rams so much that I feel like we have to have one on there.
Well, I mean, I have a personal card as well, so like that'll be in my card.
Okay.
And like it's good to have differentiation, and I like enough games this week where it's not like I only like 5 games or 6 games, and I just can't take them off the card. Like I like all these games, so it's definitely looks like a good week for betting purposes. So I don't mind taking those off. So I think we have one more we have to take off.
I jumped the gun and I hit Arizona. I just think that when you are getting anywhere north of 7.5, 8 points, the volatility of what that result could be. I mean, Arizona could get blown out of the building. I get that. The only other option would be if I'm with you on Seattle, and I know you well enough now that if you have conviction on any team that's laying 3.5, there is a significantly strong reason behind that. So I'm not going to push back. I'm fine. In fact, it's like I would blindly tail you laying 3.5 because I know how uncomfortable that can make you, and rightfully so. I think the reason why I'm hesitant to take Cincinnati off the card, Walt, is because I think you're exactly spot on as far as the line movement, it not going through 3 and staying above that, knowing the liability that books are willing to take you or lack thereof.
Yeah.
If you
I like the Bengals defense against Sam Darnold too. I don't want to take him off. You weren't like super high on the Bears. We could take them off and put Arizona back on if you want to do that.
I'm betting Chicago. No. I'm in. I'm on Chicago. You got me. I'm betting the Bears with the points, and I'm going to take a little sprinkle on the money line. Nice. Absolutely. All right, so there it is. That's the card for now. Who knows? This could change tonight, but I think for us at least, for the purposes of what we're doing here, and we're going to try and keep this thing simple and consistent. Falcons -2.5. Well, actually, as far as the card is concerned, we want to make sure we get the right lines. Falcons -2.5, Seahawks -3.5. The Bengals, told you that's still at 3.5, locked in there. The Bears are locked in at 8.5, and the Lions are 8.5. That's fine. That's the 5. All right, not bad.
Yeah, looks pretty good. Looks like a 5-0 card.
I love it. And there's another look there, walterfootball.com. We've got links below. So you're not signed up at MGM, Caesars. You can bet these, find the best odds at Odd Shopper, and take advantage of the links below so that you can sign up too. And a lot of these books, all of these books have, look at that, $1,000 as a bonus bet just for signing up at Caesars. You could put a G right there on the Bears, +340. And you know what? If it doesn't come back, then you get your money back. All that. Good stuff, Walt. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. Glad to be doing this with you again. And let's go 5-0.